for the long haul.
That's great.
Is traveling, or she's in the mountain. Let's see if we can catch her on her cell phone. No, I think we're at it. Might get 2 hours. Hi Lisa, it's Martin. Hi Lisa, it's Martin calling from Town Hall. How are you?
Great. I'm going to put the sound on mute most of the time because I just got back to some dogs that are going crazy.
Well, that sounds fun too.
Okay.
So we're waiting.
Here.
Well, good. We have 2 members so far, and we'll wait a couple more minutes and then get started. So if you want to, feel free to chime in.
Thanks.
You were here last night for post-app, right?
Yep.
I left before the end. I didn't have a chance to catch up with Allison and say how it went.
Good.
You good?
Yeah. Smooth meeting.
Anything new? What's the dog food talk?
Lots of dog food talk. National Trails Day planning.
Yeah, it's coming out.
Oh.
Yeah, just a couple months.
A lot of other routine stuff. Nothing groundbreaking last night.
Anything new at Trails Day this year? Last couple of years we got some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think last year we kind of hit the perfect formula. I think we're going to more or less try to replicate what we did, so more or less the same people showing up. Reach out to CAPS, see if they want a booth there. Because we always have 4 or 5 booths, and I know that they're trying to do some public outreach and figure that out, so maybe add them into the mix. But otherwise, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
How you doing?
More focused on safety, making sure there's a clear place for people to park and how to walk over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, where people normally been parking.
They ended up just parking along Colton, so we'll direct them onto the Spirit 15.
Yeah, because the parking surface is still there.
Yep.
Just coming up. That's a good spot.
Yeah.
How many people did you have last year?
Over 300.
300. I remember 300.
Yeah.
You're hoping for more this year?
That's the hope. We got a bigger tent that way people wouldn't be killed by the sunlight. That was the biggest thing last year. It was so hot.
Yeah,
It was
shade.
dying. So, yeah, should be good. Hopefully.
Oh, that's just sent me a note a few months ago.
Oh.
They'll be running this back. So it'll be
Yeah, traffic was looking a little snowy out there.
Jim, I'm gonna email you later. Matt Rare called.
Hi.
With some numbers for fence costs.
So good.
Just did the math with them on the phone.
Oh,
It's like, I'll check this.
Hey, what do you know, if you see what I'm trying to
Go
do?
see
I think
Conservaton.
you talked about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for the center.
Yeah.
Some
Some critical mass clumping.
Four or five year cycle or 10-year cycle, some sort of established dedication for that. I'll check with Matt, but it looks like it's $30 a foot for the rail, 50 for the dock here.
trying to understand is, under the kind of policy in place or practice in place, if you don't want to call it a policy, you know, the town taking care of the slats and all that kind of stuff. How does that divvy up the cost? Is that a?
What was the term that you was from, not shared responsibility, but
Common boundary fence. Shared responsibility.
Shared responsibility. I'm remembering when you see the numbers, it's in formula, not total, break that out.
Right. But if a 50-yard, linear yard piece of whatever number I used, you know, had to be completely replaced between the town and the property owner, under the formula on the website, who would pay what? I mean, how much? I won't be dollars amount. I mean, they either, you know, they actually run the numbers, and they make a lot of sense, so I guess I'm trying to keep track.
Just talking through the amount on the phone, it's pretty close to half and half.
That makes sense.
Did you receive one of these as well?
I did.
It's very fancy
good
and
with
official as well.
I just found my room cleaning out like this little junk basket. It's
nice.
terrible. I don't think I've ever seen anyone wear theirs.
Well, it makes me feel official.
Okay. That's good.
Thanks for coming by, Colleen. So I just looked at
Oh,
your
yeah.
SE email, it'll be there in a couple of minutes. You emailed about 10 minutes ago. So, we'll have to make it standing 5:45 start time.
Okay.
And you can catch up. Colleen, do you know Ken Lish from OSAC? OSAC?
Hi.
Yep,
Hey,
it's
yeah.
kind of 2 times, but really
Yeah.
blessed and other events.
Hey, I got interviewed for the story in the newspaper about the lockdown.
Oh, wow.
My son was on the PE class. 2 classes were walking, and they were over by Coles when they did the lockdown. And so he got swept up and locked up with the elementary school kids.
Over at the Walmart building, or where did they
In
end
the
up going?
church, yeah, they
Yeah.
did. They took him to that church, and anyways, it was just like, oh my. And I actually confronted like the school district personnel, and I said, these are high schoolers. Like they can get themselves to and from school. Some of them are 18, and they can actually, you know, you need to not, because they weren't letting anyone check out any kids because they wanted to bus all the K-8 from the school over, because they said if we check out, if someone comes to check out a kid, because the school is divided in half. And so we were sitting there for like an hour, and I said, this is ridiculous, because, you know, I actually saw my son, he got in my car, and then they said, oh wait, you just have to sign this piece of paper. And then they rallied him up, all these police, and they locked him into this building. It was terrible, and
What
so,
was the lockdown?
it was, but the
What
thing
was
is,
it though?
Suspicious backpack?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
there was a,
Where?
at the
Monarch.
tennis courts at the high school.
Oh, really?
But the problem was that the K-8 got divided in half. So half the kids were in the school, and half they took the buses over to the Kohl's parking lot. And the stories they're not telling is, I guess, kids were peeing in trash cans because they locked them in the classrooms for over 3 hours. Teachers are peeing in bottles.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they didn't report on that. That's what, you know, that's the stories that were coming from like people's, I'm like, oh no, I would be like, forget it, I'm taking a risk, I'm going out into the hallway.
Wow.
So
what
that's
was it? A bag of tennis balls? What was it?
nothing, I guess. I know. And so, and yeah, my quote was, oh yeah, I'm not really worried.
I read that article.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That was me, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, they're gonna be fine.
Of course, when it's your 8-year-old, you're more stressed out than when it's your feisty,
Yeah.
talking back to you, won't do his chores, 17.
Yeah.
You're like, just leave him there. It's like,
He'll be
"God,
fine.
Don't hurt him, but you know, you at 4. Oh,
Here comes Esme.
okay.
Just running across.
Yay.
Out of breath, stumbling in.
You made it.
Hey,
sorry,
that's
I'm
it.
late.
That's all right.
That's stuck at work 7.
You'll never guess what we were just talking about.
What?
No, nothing. No.
Uh-oh.
It wasn't about you. It wasn't about you. No, the lockdown
Probably.
happened. There was a lockdown at Monarch earlier, and Colleen's son got swept up in the
Yeah, he was
in the move.
And then she was
And then
quoted
they
in the
interviewed
newspaper.
me For the newspaper.
Wow.
And my response was, oh, wow, it's fine.
Nice.
That's terrible. I went to an inner city high school that, I had actual, like, shoot, it was like.
So compared.
No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 or 2 people get shy a lot. That's terrible. Don't quote me as that.
It's on the record.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Next newspaper quote.
So I've heard from Michelle that she can't make it. I think I forwarded
Mhm.
you a note. And
Yeah,
then
you
Mrs.
let me know about
Kumatz is
that.
on the phone, and
Okay, oh,
I hadn't
that's good.
heard from Tanya. I haven't heard from her in a while.
So we're at a
I think this
quorum?
is it.
We have 5.
5. Excellent.
No, on the phone does not count as.
Oh, it doesn't.
Oh.
Darn close.
Can we get a picture of her?
Cardboard
Like
cutouts.
a day for Cory Gardner.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sorry again for running late, and hopefully we can get started, and I haven't delayed us too much.
No, I just got here.
Okay.
So you all had a chance to see the agenda, just essentially a continuation of last month. The agenda has a note at the top for public comment, and Ken's here, so I'm assuming Ken wants to maybe lead it off.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ken Lish. I'm at 1326 South Idalia Court. I'm also the chair of the Open Space Advisory Committee. Over the past couple months, I've been emailing with Ezzy and with Peter Bottomley, the chair of ProStack. We've been on OSAC trying to figure out the best way to attack the problem of the excessive dog waste in town. It's becoming a more and more noticeable issue. It's been being brought up more at the trustee level. We had an OSAC meeting last night where we had 2 members of the public from different parts of Superior come and speak to us about the problem. So we've been trying to figure out the best way to go about it, and we'd love to partner with both you and ProStack if there's any interest at all. What OSAC discussed last night and the way we would like to move forward, and if you have an interest in joining, is kind of a 2-pronged approach. One is through kind of preventative measures, and one is direct intervention. So the direct intervention piece is setting up a couple different events. The first event that we want to implement would be on the weekend of April 22nd. So that is the weekend after the Arbor Day event, and is also happens to be Earth Day. We're going to have a booth over at the Arbor Day event, and what we're going to do is start putting together some promotional materials and make that weekend of the 22nd a kind of clean up Superior type weekend. And what we were thinking is this event would be somewhat unstructured. We would publicize it. We would create some type of sign up as people were interested. We committed to have the manpower to actually go out and deliver some gloves, bags, that sort of thing. And then over the weekend, when people have the time and wherever they happen to be passionate about, go out and help clean up Superior. So the idea is focus on both dog waste and, I mean, if there's garbage, certainly don't ignore that. So, I mean, it's really picking up everything. We talked about possibly adding some type of way to gather data on it, whether it's maybe creating a hashtag or something so people can take pictures, having people estimate the amount of pounds that they collected, but some way to measure if it was successful or not. So that would kind of be our first event. And the second event, something ProStack was interested in, is they do a public service day event up on Coyote Ridge. That's the area on the south side of Rock Creek, where they go out and do some trail maintenance. They had suggested potentially combining that with some cleanup on Coyote Ridge. We were certainly interested in doing that. It'd be a much more structured event then, so we'd say this is the area. And we'd kind of kicked around maybe even adding a few more areas if there were other high volume dog waste places within Superior. So maybe one committee could focus on one area, another committee focus on another area, that sort of thing. So there are 2 events we're looking at. I don't know for sure the date that ProStack I don't know that they're looking at. The National Day of Service, don't recall when that is for sure. But
January.
when is it?
It's the first part of the year.
Okay, yeah, so it is coming up. I just don't remember when, but that's what we're thinking. And then the other piece was kind of the educational outreach piece. Right now, the main signs that's out there for people is, if you've noticed, the dog post kiosks where you can take dog bags. On the majority of them, there are little placards that cite the town codes for having your dog leashed and picking up after your dog. We were considering taking a different approach and seeing if that was more successful. Our initial thought was more education-based, to talk about what leaving dog waste does to the community, the different bacteria that get spread into our waterways and whatnot. There was an entire park in Jeffco that just got closed down because of that. And then last night, one of the members of the public who came and spoke to us brought up the idea of using maybe somewhat of a humor campaign instead, that had maybe short little quips that might get people to laugh, but at the same time think about it and try to do better. So I think what we might want to kick to you guys, if you have any additional thoughts, is if you have ideas for what could go on signs, a better way to engage the community to try to encourage them to be better about their dog waste. I think what we'd like to do is that member of the community is going to send his ideas in. We've already collected ideas from OSAC. If you guys have any ideas and want to send them to us, we could aggregate them and then figure out the best way forward and work with staff to figure out how to put it out there. So that's what OSAC's doing. Just want to let you guys know, see if there was any interest. I'll go and let you guys discuss this later tonight or at your next meeting or whatnot, but that's where we are.
Oh, by the way, this is like one of my top 5 things in this town. Seriously, I become obsessive about when I see dog poop on a walk and I can't get it out of my mind. It just disturbs me to no end.
It's not the most glorious subject and it's not the most fun
Right.
to talk about, but
And it's just, I mean, but it makes, it can ruin a walk. You go out, and the whole reason a lot of us moved here is because of the trails and stuff, to go walking around, and it's disgusting. And just so you know, when my youngest was about 2 years old, he went to Circle Park and he picked up dog poop in his hand, and I'm gonna tell you, that was really disgusting and gross. And we've all and then the kids go out as teenagers and they step in it, and then you have to deal with the shoes. It's just disgusting. But because I'm slightly obsessed with this, number 1, libraries, number 2, dog poop. That's what
It's good to have priorities.
There's 3 groups, I think, that contribute to probably about 90, maybe more than 90% of the dog poop. Number 1 is dogs off leash. I've never once have I seen a dog on leash, but the owner hasn't picked up the dog poop. But all the time when they're off leash, they'll pretend they don't see it. Number 2 is teenagers walking the dogs. Because, they're teenagers. They're told by their parents, you have to go out and walk. I'm sure my son did that. I actually found out, he confessed later. Oh, when he used to send me out I would never pick it up. I'm like, oh no, you're kidding me. Here I am, the one complaining about it. And the 3rd is the people from the apartments. They walk over to a community park, and I saw a woman one time, and I actually said, can you please pick that up? And she goes, oh, I'm going to. And she didn't. She walked away. And I know that I've seen a lot of people, they just walk across the street and they take their dogs off the leash, and they let them just run around that lake and just poop wherever,
I think it's
the dogs, not the people.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that if people understood the problems that can be created by that, it might help more. We certainly don't want to isolate certain sects of the community and alienate them or anything like that. So we've been trying to avoid the who's doing what and that sort of thing,
Well, I
but
think,
just trying
I
to.
think we have to, I think we have to figure, because like if you go, the thing with the educational thing is that I think the people that are gonna go to an educational thing tend to be people that follow rules and probably aren't really doing that. I think that the off-leash thing, I mean, I've given up on this. I used to make phone calls all the time, because I don't even walk my dogs anymore, because so many people have dogs off-leash in this area, and they've actually come up to my dogs, and my one dog's a pound dog, and will snarl, and it's really upsetting to everybody, because he doesn't like other dogs. But I think if we can find a way to reinforce the leash laws.
Well, so that's a very different subject. The leash laws and dog waste are
No, they're really connected.
Well,
I mean, just walk around, hide in the bushes and watch. Seriously, or just like blend in, because I think it's very, very connected.
well, for what OSAC's going about, we've identified them as different issues. We're not taking a stance on the leash law issues right now. We've been given direction by the board not to address that until
why is that?
Because they're addressing it themselves, and will give further direction at that point. So
I'm sure it's also enforcement as well.
yeah,
part,
there's a lot
so.
more that is around the leash law than the
what?
waste.
What's around the leash law?
Ordinances, how you, I mean, technically there's ordinances and enforcement around both issues, but the leash law carries a lot more, I'd say, emotion behind it. And we've been given direction not to address that topic until the board can
Well,
give
that's
us better
ridiculous.
direction.
I just think that that's ridiculous.
Well,
Sorry.
either way,
No,
that's the direction we've been given, so we're only
Okay.
focused on the dog waste.
Well, I think personally, I think you could do as much education as you want, and as long as dogs are off leash. Because even like the best owner, if their dog runs off, they might not even see it, going on, or the dog is so far away from them. But yeah, and by the way, I know it's an issue in this town, the leash laws, because people keep trying to stencil it and then they keep painting over it. Has anyone noticed that? That's been going on for like 2 years. Someone keeps stenciling, leash law, and then someone else comes over and paints over it all the time. It's like this continuous battle around town. Has anyone else noticed that? I can take, what? Oh, no, I don't know. No, I know it's not the town, but anyway.
At the very least, I think, it points to having kind of a multi-pronged approach to education and having, maybe with some weatherproof signage with the dog bags and stuff that we could kind of highlight some of the issues maybe in an entertaining way. And maybe if we could expand the do good section of the town email, that may be another option for communication. I'm not sure how many people that really reaches necessarily, but I think taking a multi-pronged approach sounds like could be valuable.
I liked the end of the article on dog waste that Martin had sent out, where it was like, if the dogs could talk to their owners. And so maybe that's like something we could go about doing to lighten it up. Like, if the dog knew you weren't picking up, your dog would be ashamed of you.
Well, thank you guys very much. I didn't mean to hijack you at the beginning.
No.
Of the
Thanks so much, kid.
No, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad
Thanks, guys.
glad you guys are tackling it.
Thanks, you too.
Oh, I hate it when someone says, don't touch a subject. That makes me just want to go in full force. It's the activist in me, right? Oh.
So, just going through the new business and update and calendar items, and then we can get to the meat of this. So I'll try and flow through this so you can get to the discussion on the commercial building measures. So, highlights from the March newsletter. Y'all received it, hopefully. There were a couple of notes in here. Like Ken mentioned the Arbor Day celebration and the new park grand opening April 15th, and that's also the date of the Hard to Recycle and Household Hazardous Waste event at El Dorado K-8 School. So, boy, I don't remember if anybody's been here, was on the committee the last time we did one of these. Last year we got snowed out. For about 10 years prior to that, we've had an event where we partner with Boulder County's Hazardous Materials Management Division, basically, and our partners at EcoCycle to come learn and try what it's like to go over to the Charm Center, to go over to Boulder County's waste management facility and drop off materials. So the town pays for half of the cost to drop off something. There's a fee for some electronics items, as you know, or tires or some other items that are legislatively required to not be, just don't generally. So we'll host that event on the 15th from 9 to noon. This is an item that's a net ad. We don't have any staff for this, so me and the municipal court clerk and the town planner and our multimedia and graphic specialist, Melissa Miller, the lady who helps put together these newsletters. We all come over that morning and we split it up into shifts, and usually we have a member or two from the committee that's interested in helping do some of the intake with us. We stand at the front and we have tick sheets where we try to categorize and figure out how many people are coming in and what generally they're dropping off, whether it's batteries or antifreeze or large materials, just to get an idea of what brought them there, how they heard about it, and what they're dropping off, to help supplement what a EcoCycle and the county staff do to process the material themselves. It's been a great program over the years, but from the glazed look on your eyes, nobody knows what I'm talking about. So what you can read up there is really what it is. We set up at El Dorado K School, and there are bins and toters and gaylords and trucks and a forklift and a lot of paint and other material that gets dropped off, and it's a great event, and it's a great way to dip your toe in the water. If you've never been over to the Charm Center, have the Charm Center come here, which is the short way of thinking about it. So I'll mention it again next month, and if anybody's interested in coming and helping out, that would be great. We usually split it up between like 8:30 and 10:30, and then 10 to noon, a little bit of overlap in the middle. So I'll send you a reminder on that next month.
Okay.
And we have an advisory committee open house on April 26th. Right now, this is the one committee that has a vacancy. It should be in there. Yeah.
One day.
Do you?
The one.
Does
one
someone?
Martin, I had trouble hearing that last thing you said. I'm sorry about that. This is Lisa.
Lisa, we're skimming through the newsletter, and the advisory committees and commissions are going to host an open house on Wednesday, the 26th.
Do we need to be here for that?
It'd be great if somebody
Thank you.
wanted to represent the committee.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to commit to that date, let me know. Or I'll send you a reminder next month as well.
I'll look at my calendar. I'll send you an email.
Great, thank you, Lisa.
Can I say again how happy I am about the call and ride? Thank you for all the people that worked and got that going again. That's such a fantastic.
It's been great to have it back, and
It is.
I just the Public Works Director just forwarded a note on what our ridership was for our last cycle, so this would have been quarter. So we were up over 3 riders per hour, which is kind of the threshold for having a successful
good.
call and ride service. So it was great to have a good session.
I would say we had a hard time because our address shows up as being in Louisville, and so we had to call and they were like, sorry, we can't set it up at this time. I ended up having to contact RTD customer service, and they had to go in and change our address in their system to note it as in service area. And I know a bunch of Rock Creek houses, that same thing happens
Yeah,
because
that
we have the
happens a
same
bunch with
zip
mine,
code. So if it shows up as a Louisville address, they'll say oh, you're not in our service area. So just a sidebar that
Good to know.
we might want to talk to RTD about that, because that might increase ridership if we can fix that.
Yeah, making it easier would
Yeah.
be great. So if you think of it, or if you hear from somebody that has a question like that or a concern, if they could email me, that would be great.
Okay.
Because when we sit down with the folks from RTD to talk about anything, service issues, having something to help have some real world examples
Yeah.
of what the experiences are really helps.
Okay, I'll send you an email.
So Caitlin read ahead a little bit on Colleen's notes. So the transit updates, and then the HOV 3+, and then the bus service. And there was one other note. The Sticks Coffee Shop and the golf simulator are now open over at Sports Staple if you haven't had a chance to get over there. They are pretty great. Yeah. So the bigger item for this month, and not really a calendar item as a look-ahead item, but really a date item for this month. So March 27th through the 31st will be the annual shred event, or semi-annual shred event, with Guardian Storage partnering with DataSafe. We talked last month about the outreach, so you can see the note here in the newsletter, and we'll have e-blasts and some notes on, I think it's on town's Facebook page. So the outreach, I think, Caitlin, you mentioned last month, we followed through with the items that we talked about. And then the group also talked about having some yard signs placed around town. So I have right here 6 yard signs that are just waiting for somebody to place them at prominent locations around town. I'll take one and put it out here in front at the right at the intersection with McCaslin and Coal Creek Drive. But if somebody wanted to take 1 or 2 or the other 5 and place them at the main intersections around town, that'd be a big help. So on your way out, if you want to grab one,
Okay, cool.
that'd be great. The
When is that?
March 27th through the 31st.
Spring break.
Oh, okay. I have my papers ready. I do 2 bags. I love that idea.
And with irrigation season coming up, the Conservation Resource Center, or Center for Resource Conservation, note about the annual water audit program is in here, and then our reminders at the end with the yard waste site service hours and securing trash on windy days, bulk item discard, and the do good. It was last month we had it was last month of January, a longer article regarding dog waste as part of that ongoing effort to try to expand rather than having a fairly consistent message from the do good folks, having a little bit more coordinated outreach that I think folks in OSAC and Parks and Rec and Open Space are working on. So highlights from the newsletter.
That's a daylight savings this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't that fun, something? I saw that in the news this morning. It's Melissa's.
Getting earlier every year.
We're getting slower, but yeah, it's Melissa puts that in there, and I saw that when I was reviewing the newsletter before it went out, and I was like, oh, really? It's already that time? Yeah. It's coming up, March 12th, this weekend. So document shred noted for upcoming events, the household hazardous waste we talked about a little bit, and the Arbor Day park dedication event.
What's our presence or role at the Arbor Day event? What's that been in the past?
Past years, there have been representatives from this committee at a booth, a little bit like Ken mentioned when he was here early, to either hand out materials. There was, if there are some eco-cycle guides, or if there were some materials, some print materials, we've had members of this group who wanted to just basically hand out information. And my predecessors and I have collected a box of stuff, which includes CFL information, eco-cycle materials, irrigation information, planting information, compost information. And if there are some folks that want to be here for the Arbor Day event and have a booth there, I can ask the folks on the Parks, Rec, and Open Space staff to have that box at the booth available. And there was we've had signups for the irrigation audit program. So basically the ongoing kind of resource or sustainability programs that we have information for, members of this committee are always welcome to attend and participate and hand any of that out. I don't know if we'll have the giveaway bags. We ordered, like mentioned last month or the month before last, in January, that we we're going to order the reusable shopping bags that we had last year. We'll order another box or 2 or 3 boxes of those, so they'll have those to give away at events.
Cool.
That's nice.
So Essie, I think you went to Chili Fest.
Yeah, I did
last
the
year.
Chili Fest, but I didn't make the Arbor Day last year, so.
Didn't make Arbor Day. Arbor Day's not as big.
Yeah,
It's in the
okay.
hundreds, and Chili Fest is in the thousands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chili Fest is massive.
It's a pretty big deal. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so a lot of just kind of general people coming, kind of dropping by and seeing kind of what we do and kind of getting general information has been at least my experience for these types of events. So.
Yeah. Well, it sounds
And
like
this year it'll be coupled with the park opening.
Yes.
Yeah, so while
Oh, that's right.
The new
Right.
park facility will be open the same day. So the Arbor Day event will be combined with that, which we did a few years ago with Founders Park. And it adds a new energy. Yeah, and did the same thing. So yeah, we've kind of gotten this down in some ways with the new park facilities that have been added over the years. So Arbor Day presents an opportunity to amplify or add to the landscape that's included in these new park projects. So having Arbor Day at the new park is an opportunity to plant some additional trees and then celebrate the opening of the park, and then also have the Arbor Day facility, or Arbor Day festivities, the event itself.
They're gonna announce the name of the park there then, right?
Yeah, the board picked it
Oh.
last month, earlier. Yeah, last
Oh,
month.
so is it public record what it's called?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it?
Well,
Wildflower.
Darn it, they didn't pick mine.
There were a few hundred names.
What? 180 I read.
I think so, yeah, it was upwards of 200, I think.
Yeah, I think it was in the article.
Mhm.
Martin, good evening, Jim Payne. I'll have for you the HOA's trash summary for the, if you're gonna do that kind of a table this year.
Mhm.
So I have it.
Oh, you mean the information about signing up for the
Composting,
Yeah,
and
the
so we've always had
compost
a-
subscription service. That was the thing that I was trying to
A
remember.
town and an HOA version, because some people are into the HOA
Mhm.
and some people aren't, but I'll have that, I'll make sure I have it updated for you.
Yeah, that would be great. I think we updated the link that's on our website.
Put it
but
on
we
your
can-
list, but I'll make sure, because I won't be here that week, but I'll get it.
Okay. Write myself a note. So the program that Jim's referring to, if you aren't participating already, is the compost program that Waste Connections offers for both town trash and recycling customers as well as the HOA's trash and recycling customers, is to sign up for an every Thursday pickup, every other Thursday pickup from April through kind of October-ish, to have compost, yard waste and other items that are organic that could be composted or added to the Waste Connections subcontractors compost pile. And sign up for that. It's $140 for the year, or for the season, something like that. And it's a great service, and we've had several people sign up for it over the years, but it doesn't have a huge subscription. So we're trying to promote that. It's a great option.
I remember reading an article in the newspaper, and it was debating whether or not by the time you have a truck and you have the fossil fuels and then you put it out and you haul it somewhere and then you haul it somewhere else, the whole newspaper article in the folder paper was, is this even like helping our environment, or is there a negative? Maybe that might be why a lot of people aren't signing up, because because it was questionable, so.
Well, the different people look at it for different purposes. So most of the people, just in our experience in the HOA here, are looking, when they talk about it, they're talking about yard waste, because they don't want to have to drag it over to our beautiful
So it's a huge,
yard
so
waste
they're
center.
going with big, they're just
But
not
the
going
people
with
who
food
sign up
scraps.
for it
Okay.
are the truly dedicated composters who are doing kitchen scraps.
Okay.
But in Superior, kitchen scraps can go down the drain and are recycled recaptured and recycled through the wastewater treatment. So we have, almost everybody has disposals and so forth, because we're a relatively new town.
Right.
So there's not it doesn't really work. The problem is it doesn't work that well for yard waste, because when you need it, you need more capacity than you can get in a bin.
Right.
And we have a terrific, recently expanded yard waste recycling facility. So, that's why we get maybe it hovers between 8 to 15 people out of almost 3,000 homes who sign up for it, and the Waste Connections will tell us nobody ever puts them out. They'll send the truck around and there's nothing there.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
It happens all the time. So it's tough. It may just not be, well suited for this
Right.
town. But I was going to ask, what's going on with, is it EchoSite? What's going on with that in the paper about, is that contract with Boulder up, or who? I'm just curious if you know anything about that.
Just what you've seen in the papers, the EcoCycle has had an exclusive contract to run the county's recycling facility since I want to say it's 2000, around then. And the commissioners are interested in opening it up and hearing what other companies or other firms can provide. That's all I've seen. Anybody else?
But I always thought they were locked in, like, no?
It's
Okay.
a nonprofit recycle, so they're just looking for other bids just to.
I think, this is Lisa, I think it is the first time they've let it for quite a while. It is set to roll over or be almost evergreen for EcoCycle.
Hmm.
I think this is one of the first times they've actually gone out in a serious way for possible competition again.
Oh,
There's 11 firms bidding right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Is A1 a bidder? Is that, I mean, is that the kind of, Lisa? Are these people like A1, or who are the people that would bid on this? Is
It
it
says
listed?
Waste Management, Alpine
Oh, so
Waste
the
and
big-
Recycling, Western Disposal, Midwest Waste, and EcoCycle,
All right, yeah.
among others.
All
curious.
firms with experience running, this is Boulder County owns the MRF, and they put out a contract to operate it. So that's what EcoCycle has been doing. It's not EcoCycle owns MRF, it's EcoCycle operated MRF. And other folks who operate MRFs include most of the major haulers around the area.
cool.
Thanks, Lisa. So,
So are we decided that we're having a booth at Arbor Day for our committee? Was that?
How does that work? So in the past, for some events, we've had like one single booth where all the committees can show up.
Okay.
And so if people are there, that's great. And if not, it still kind of works out and they're just general resources. So I'm not sure if that's the same idea for the Arbor Day this year, Martin.
Arbor Day is a little easier because it's
Okay.
not packed in, so you'll have your own table if you wanted to have
Okay,
your
so
own
they're
table.
separate.
But remember, it's happening at the same time as the Household Hazardous Waste Hard to Recycle event. So if there are a
Right,
couple of
okay.
people who wanted to maybe switch off and go back and forth, that'd be great.
Okay.
And I should have checked on this before this meeting, but I'm relatively certain that we'll have the giveaway bags
Mhm.
to have at that event. So if there's one or two folks that want to be at either Household Hazardous Waste, and then maybe switch off with one or two people that want to be at the Arbor Day, that'd be great.
Okay.
They're
Cool.
so close, you could have one booth, couldn't you?
Well, one's at the park, one's at the parking lot. The word park's in both.
There you go.
Well, it sounds like a good opportunity. I mean, if part of our goals are educating the public and encouraging signups in various programs, it sounds like we should be there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'd be
awesome.
willing to
Yeah.
be there that morning and participate, so.
Oh,
I would as well.
I did the Chili Fest, the morning section. I loved it because I love talking about anything about politics in the town and our committee and stuff. And we ended up talking about, a lot of people ask about fracking and all that. It's a great way to talk with other
Mhm.
people in the community. I love it. And because I kind of like sharing the booth because I actually learned a lot from talking to people from the other committees. And so when it was a little bit slow, we actually talked among
Yeah.
ourselves, and I really enjoyed that because
Yeah,
you find out what's
useful.
going on in some of the other committees.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
kind of like sharing the booth.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got a note that Lisa's interested and is going to check her schedule on committing for the volunteer or the advisory committee open house. And then Caitlin and Mike volunteering for Arbor Day, or maybe one for the Household Hazardous Waste and one for Arbor Day and maybe switch off. And then if somebody else wants to join in, I'll send a reminder with the meeting notes.
Sure, I think that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll go, and then if we can coordinate amongst ourselves, if we need to rotate the spaces or something, that's fine.
That works.
Is it useful, Martin, you mentioned you have, from past years, a collection of informational brochures or flyers or things like this. Is
Yes,
it-
we do. We have little fact sheets. I remember that we put together summaries of what we've done in the past. I can try to find it, or Martin, if you have it, that'd be great.
Lisa, I think I do have what you're referring to, but I mentioned the box of materials that we've had that has kind of a smorgasbord sample of different programs that the town's either received information or participated in over the
Perfect.
years. So it's really whatever the committee members are interested. If you're interested in the sustainability programs or light bulbs or irrigation, there's some information in the box.
Could we see the box itself at the next meeting in April, and then
Sure.
we'll get our
If
hands
you'd
on it,
like
and
to,
then we
you can
can
take it
decide.
home with you tonight.
Ah.
And fish through it. I haven't gone through it, I don't think, really, since I've been back in this office.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe we'll do that. I'd
Sure.
be interested to see what's in there, and then we
Yeah.
can decide
Sure.
what we want to bring, or if there's other things.
And
So-
that might be a good time if we decide with OSAC they're doing the Clean Up Superior event to maybe like even hand out dog waste bags and like let people know that the next weekend there's going to be an event where they can get involved.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
curious as well on the materials side. I know you mentioned some educational resources around CFLs, so I'm wondering if those are still up to date or if we should be focusing on
It feels
LEDs
like they might
instead.
be
Yeah,
out of
somebody
date.
wants to find out.
CFLs.
Yeah, if there's something
Yeah.
that makes sense to print,
Nice
you know, we
to
can
find
print it.
update around LEDs, you're right.
Yeah, do some new updates for that. So, yeah, let's look through the box next event. I think that'd be good, or our next meeting.
Okay.
And then if there was something particular that made sense to print, if you
Mhm.
just send it to me or link to it beforehand, I'll just print off a couple hundred and just
Cool.
stick it in there, and then you'll have it
Okay.
right from the start.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Great. Sounds like we would like to put on our agenda for next meeting to plan for
Yeah,
the event.
review
Yeah,
literature.
Yeah, exactly. Review the box.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I didn't note it on here. The town manager had a chance to finalize the upcoming meeting agenda, so I wanted to note a couple of things, and I'll send it with the meeting notes. The presentation of the commercial building sustainability options. I wanted to give you the date now while we're talking about dates and calendars. So May 8th is the date that we've
Okay.
isolated for that.
Perfect.
So the first meeting in May, and then the second meeting in May, May 22nd, will be the night of the joint town board and committee dinner. So 5/8 and 5/22, I'll send you reminders of that for that.
Perfect.
And
So
then-
what was
And
May
did you
8th?
put something together for that, or what's the story?
Sorry, what did you say, Lisa?
Do we need to put something together for that, or what's the story? Are we just gonna wing it, or what's our preference?
Well,
So-
you'll have two meetings between now and the dinner, Lisa, so maybe something will come out of the dialogue regarding the sustainability measures, or I can have a placeholder in the agenda for next month to maybe identify topics that you want to talk about.
Great.
But I'll note that either way.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. So 5/8 and 5/22 for the presentation on the sustainability measures, and the 22nd for the dinner. And then one other item that I thought about before I put the agenda together, and it slipped my mind, was a discussion on the staffing for the county's Recycling and Conservation Advisory Board. Lisa Skumatz, in her professional capacity, has been a member of RCAB in the past. In town staff, my position has been an appointed member of RCAB, I think, since the town's been a participant in RCAB, so it goes back 10 or 15 years. Lisa is interested in serving or having the committee serve as a backup to the staff role. With my current work plan, I'm not able to go very often to attend the events. And Lisa oftentimes, when she's in town, makes the time to be there, and I think is interested in having members of the committee serve as backup for this. So I have that on my list to bring up with this group to see if you had some feelings on that, good,
What is
bad, or
this
otherwise.
again? What is
I was
it?
gonna, sorry. So Martin is the designated person for the town, and, like he said, he isn't able to make it to a lot of the meetings, I go to a lot. I was hoping that the committee might consider, nominating me to be Martin's backup for that committee. That was kind of what I was hoping. I'd really like to be able to feel like when I go to the meetings, I have a little bit more official opinion, if I may. And also, they asked for updates on what Superior is doing, and I never know if I should hike up or not, and all that sort of thing. I've really enjoyed being on the committee, and it addresses interesting issues. I've served in the past on an at-large position, and but because of obviously a personal interest of mine to the recycling side of things, I would have nominated Effie, and if there's an energy committee, I know that's where his main area is. My main area is for recycling, and I was hoping that the committee might be willing to possibly allow me to serve as a backup to Martin. That's I guess where I'm coming from.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
I'm
Yeah.
supportive of that unless anyone has any
I'm
concerns or.
supportive.
That sounds good to me.
I think it sounds good.
I would support it as well. Is this something that requires us to vote as a quorum, which we don't?
Which we don't have, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
or not?
I think, don't you think consensus or that sort of thing would be good enough for this part?
Sure, yeah, this is, not sure, but yes. You know, if anybody is welcome to attend the meetings, and if somebody wants to help support and have Superior's presence and interest shared with the group, I think that's fantastic. So I appreciate your time and energy.
Excellent.
So just a note for the
I
group.
find it fun, but I'm a little sick, so yeah.
They often have dinner or a light dinner, and they've had some great items. There's always some good reasons to.
There you go.
I only wish they had a standing reservation at Ephraim's across the street. That would be ideal.
Ooh, that'd be good. That entrance. The Mexican place.
So Colleen, you asked about the group. The Resource and Conservation Advisory Board is an appointed group of the Boulder County
And I can
Commissioners.
come back and, when I can come back and provide reports on what was done
That'd be
to our
great.
committee if you like as well. And I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I'd really like to learn more about it. I think that'd be great.
Happy to do so.
Cool, thanks so much.
The group meets, as you can see on the screen, it's the fourth Wednesday of each month at 4:45 at the
Oh,
Boulder
okay.
County Recycling Center. If you've been over where kind of recycling row is on 63rd, it is right in there. I bet as we
Oh,
walk in.
okay, oh, cool, okay.
That was the last of the items I had, so maybe in this last half hour, if there weren't any other items. Sharon's here, and Essie had taken some time and sent a PowerPoint presentation regarding the sustainability measures for commercial development. So I was hoping to cut my time short, but yeah, that's what I do. Maybe I talk too much. But I'll be glad to hand over the mouse and the keyboard.
Yeah, I guess I
Okay.
don't know. Now I have to ask.
So this is just kind of a really short presentation summarizing kind of what we did with the sustainability guidelines. So there shouldn't be anything new here, but just want to get feedback. We can certainly add some more, pictures because I don't have a whole lot of time to add visual elements. So it's pretty text heavy, but yeah, I just wanted to get feedback on it.
And if anybody, I looked through it. I'm certainly happy to help with graphics or anything you need help with.
Excellent, thanks.
Oh, and Sharon Procopio, Illumina Design. Hello. Do you want me to just click through it, or how do you want to do it, Essie?
Sure. Yeah, we can kind of go over just what I put on each slide.
Mhm.
The first one is just kind of setting the stage of why the town board should care about sustainability. Hopefully this isn't a huge sell that we have to make, but I'm not sure exactly where the town board is at the moment. So kind of, just looking at the different benefits that you can get from different aspects of sustainability.
Mhm.
And so this is kind of summarizing what the purpose of our recent work was in terms of kind of having a two-pronged approach. The main side of it is to use it in the commercial development review process, to have kind of a set of vetted sustainability projects and improvements, and kind of help the town have the ability to assess projects and encourage sustainability. And then the second part is as something used during and post-construction in case issues or variances come up, and so the town can request that they kind of, have additional sustainability projects to make up for those. So that's kind of the gist of that. And then these are the 4 general categories that are covered in the document, and so the next 4 slides cover each of these in detail, and it basically just highlights the measures that we identified in the document. I get rid of the information on points because that's available in the document.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about the kind of overarching idea behind the points as well in the presentation.
And so these are all above and beyond the general building codes that already
Exactly.
are in place.
Yeah, they're all kind of supplemental things.
Okay.
So it's kind of a voluntary set of guidelines that will hopefully be strongly encouraged for developers to consider. And so there are some things that aren't on here just because they don't really make sense until the building's occupied, like Energy Star certification or things like that. So these are all designed to be things that the developers and builders can actually do, independent of the occupants.
Okay.
So,
And then this is just basically those 4 categories then from the document that you guys have all reviewed, so I'll skip through those.
Yep.
I think my only feedback on these slides was probably this is going to be more text than they need. We may just honestly want some visual examples and not even put text, like here's some of the things that
Yeah.
we could request. And
That sounds good.
I have some of that on file that I'm sure I could help
Okay.
stick in. If it gets to that point with presentation, Martin, I'm just thinking that from that perspective, just
Yeah.
giving them some visual examples.
I think that would be
They have
ideal.
the document, and so just
Mhm.
kind of showing like, in lieu of an awning, you could do a solar awning, and here's what a solar awning looks like. Just kind of
Cool.
a few high level. That was my only feedback.
Excellent.
I thought everything looked good.
I like that because I think sometimes if it's all the text at once, then people are like reading it and not listening to you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
And so like show it just picture book style.
Yep.
You
I
can
think that
tell
sounds
your own
great.
story.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So just doing visual highlights, I think, will make the slides go faster too, because you don't really
Yeah, I
have
think
to
that sounds perfect.
outline.
So if you have some images that you could share that
Mhm.
are,
Oh, yeah.
okay
I've
to
got
use,
a-
that'd be fantastic.
I mean, it's not going to be, I'm not going to go by stock footage. I think I have lots of examples from other presentations we could probably pull, so.
Great.
Sweet.
That should work.
That'd be fantastic.
And then, you had a document, is it the same document, just revised?
Almost exactly the same document. I just tweaked a little bit of the wording for our last discussion.
Okay.
So again, the first paragraph kind of sets up the, why I care about sustainability. And then we changed the wording to, we request that builders adopt at least 15 points. And so again, this is voluntary and the town board could decide to have fewer or more points depending, but that's kind of the standard baseline. And then just explain that builders can also, if there's something that comes up that's really cool that would be outside of these guidelines, then we'd like to have this committee just look over it, just to make sure it makes sense and is reasonable. But otherwise, that's fair game too. So.
And when you say this committee, you mean RCAC, not the.
Exactly, yeah.
Can you scroll down just a little bit more? I want to see all the energy.
And pretty much all of these points have stayed the same over the last few months as well, as they've been sent out and reviewed and everything by everyone.
Mhm.
So, which I'm sure doesn't necessarily help the new people. So,
I still really want in there about using windows so that you don't have to use electricity to have lights on.
That's
I mean,
part, it should be up to date in the latest 2012 code. 2015
Exactly.
isn't going to be that much different from 2012.
So you say, again, I think you kind of explained in this, it's
Mhm.
in the Energy Conservation Code. It's
And we
actually
already
in there.
adopted
Yeah,
that.
explicitly.
Yes.
You told me that, like, I don't believe you, do you know this? Right?
No, that's fine. So that's
I'm
one
very
aspect of many
suspicious.
in the IECC.
Okay, so
and
that
so,
is in there, okay.
Well,
Yeah.
and this is honestly something, I don't know how much the town trustees are aware of the distinctions between building code, energy code, making sure that it's clear to them, we have this existing 2012 code for energy
Mhm.
that we meet. This is just giving them the options for going above and beyond.
Right,
Without it
exactly.
making it a mandatory ordinance at this point.
Mhm.
But there's, green building codes are different. And something I wanted to update on, because I did a little research to help Martin and just this committee. I looked at a few different distinctions between the green building code and the energy code. The reason most, and I can pull this up, but there is a database of who's adopted what by state.
Oh.
And you can see by population.
That's awesome.
Every
Oh.
town and what
Wow.
code they've adopted. So we can send this out if anyone wants to poke around at their
Fantastic.
leisure. For a point of reference in Colorado, you can kind of see where everything from 2006 is currently being used in Adams County to 2015 in Boulder County, now slightly updated in Boulder County. Superior's right there at the upper level in the range using 2012, which is the latest one prior to 2015, which has just come out not that long ago.
Didn't Boulder County just announce that they were looking at coming up with kind of their own custom version? Is
Yes,
that
it's
the
right
amended
here.
IECC or is that? Oh, I see. Okay.
They
I was
completely
looking-
rewrote it, so they're no longer
Okay.
using IECC at all.
That's kind of what I thought. All right.
And then, similar to Superior, you guys use the Green Points kind of format for residential that Boulder uses. So you guys are also doing green building on the residential side
Mhm.
already. So the advantage of going, I guess, because this came up last time, is what's the difference between green building code and the
Mhm.
energy code? And they are very much written by the same organization. One just kind of covers more, but the reality is from a cost standpoint, most people adopt the green code because of the energy. That's the selling point to developers.
Right.
From that
Makes
standpoint,
sense.
that's where you get them to do it. So if you look here, there aren't too many towns that have adopted the IGCC, which is the Green Building Code. It's mostly focused on the energy code here. with a couple exceptions. Carbondale, Fort Collins wrote their own, so they didn't use they took the IGCC and wrote their own. And then there was an interesting one. I think it was Snowmass. Yeah. So some very specific kind of towns have adopted it, but I would say that you guys are very much in line with what most of the state is doing, asking for the extra, for the build to the most recent is the extra points basically to get them to do 2015,
Mhm.
I think it's a good incentive. And I don't think you're missing too much based on what you have. I just think it's important to reiterate that you guys are not behind from the perspective of looking at the state and even nationwide when you look at that list, where the whole country is in terms, and especially when you look at population, a lot of these towns that are adopting the more modern code are over 100,000. And so your enforcement and everything is different in terms of capabilities when you're talking that size.
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Like, let's say a builder comes in and they get approval and, because the town trustees, they're not experts in these fields. They're just citizens like all of us. What happens in this town, like if a builder builds something and doesn't meet the basic codes? I'm just curious, what happens?
Well, I've been learning about it only because I'm helping now route all the permit process, but I don't know if Martin wants to answer that question. If they
It's
don't-
fairly straightforward. The building department reviews various stages of each of the construction, from foundation through up to the roof. And if something doesn't pass a certificate of occupancy, the final thing that allows a house to be sold and occupied, isn't issued.
So the planning person overviews it, and they're experts in it. They know about these.
Ernie
The
Kern was
planning.
here a few months ago. Remember him? He's our chief building official.
Okay.
And so his professional background is in enforcing and being intimately familiar with what's in
Okay.
the International Code Council's code documents.
Okay.
From basic building code all the way through something that was like an energy code through the town's residential green points program. And if the town were to adopt something else, you would become familiar with that.
Okay. I didn't know what the.
Sure. Yeah, that's
structure
pretty
was.
straightforward.
Okay.
We're a small town, so
Yeah.
we generally have one person who's responsible for a lot of things. Like you get to hear from me when you ask about questions, whether it's website or sustainability projects. It's generally, there's a person associated with it. Unlike some of the bigger jurisdictions that have the broader and much more bigger code sections that they've adopted, they have obviously more enforcement capacity.
Okay.
But you pay for it.
Right, there's a cost.
In the permit, you pay for that inspection.
So then the other link that we can send out, just if people want to have for reference, is this is just Colorado as a state. This is a visual. So in Boulder County, every city in Boulder County, including the town of Superior, is on 2012 or better. So as a county compared to the entire state, the lighter colors here show how many don't even have energy code.
Wow.
So the green is, the county is on something other than, so really it's just these 4 counties, Larimer, Boulder, Summit, Pueblo, and Denver. And so you look at the rest of the state, and granted the population is much smaller, but it just goes to show you that, you're well ahead of the pack for the state especially. So just something to share. And that's all I had on that. So, and then anything else, Essie, through here, the document? I thought it looked, you guys have revised this a few times.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's-
there's any additional.
We kind of revised a lot, but always happy to get more feedback too. So, yeah. Do we have time next meeting to have an agenda item to talk about looking at ways to encourage the town of Superior to increase its codes even further? Because I know that's something that we had talked about in the past.
Yeah, the second stage of your ask.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think
did you
we
want?
should start preparing that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and get started with that. And especially if Boulder now has its own completely custom code that's super spiffy that we could just kind of steal. I think that'd be excellent. So,
Well, and a point to remind about Boulder's code, that process of developing their own custom code includes costs, which I'll see what I can find out.
Okay.
In terms of their operational cost, how much does it cost for them to run and enforce those custom codes? because now that they're
That's
now that
true.
they're using their own code, they must have to have staff that's being trained on this new code.
That's true.
And that's a feasibility question for both political and financial feasibility for a town of 12,000 versus a town of 150.
Fair enough.
And I don't think that it should be explored, but I do think that you guys should look at the best way to get the most bang for your buck and time for what
Yeah.
you ask the board.
So I know in the past we were just looking at doing something like 30% better than the 2012 IECC
Yeah,
code
and the reason
or
Boulder
something like
rewrote that is it was getting very ambiguous. Well, what's a 30% better window? What's a 30%
Makes
better
sense.
angle of
Yeah.
building trajectory? How do you demonstrate it? And it was getting hard to enforce.
Makes sense.
And so now that they've customized it, it might be easier, but the question of whether we could pivot it over, I'll see what I can find out. I've got contacts over there that I was going to try to talk with and at least get some numbers for how long has it taken them to build it, are they willing to share it, and what is the cost to maintain it? Because if it's a $300,000 or $400,000 program, the answer might be
Right.
no, and I would hate to see you guys take something to the trustees that they go, there's no way we would ever explore this, so let's do something robust enough that you guys might get a maybe or a yes instead of a thumbs down before you spend too much time.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Yeah?
So would it make sense to maybe revise your PowerPoint slide and
Mhm.
add that maybe, and, kind of
That
summarize the
final ask.
ask?
Sure,
maybe
yeah.
both prongs.
Yeah.
I'll send out the PowerPoint slide, maybe just with the meeting notes, and so everybody can have a chance to take a look and then maybe forward recommendations or revisions or suggestions.
Mhm.
And maybe try to narrow this down a little bit more for next month.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
And so for the ask on
Thanks, that'd be great.
the ask on the PowerPoint is really specific to this first prong, and then you want to include the ask, the future ask, or do you want to just include it as more of a heads up, like here's what's coming down the pipeline?
Well, I think the committee's talked a little bit about both. I mean, my own suggestion would be to put everything you're interested in once when you have
Right,
the audience.
since you're
with
there.
The elected officials,
Mhm.
paint what your roadmap's going to hopefully look like.
Yeah, the roadmap.
Yeah.
That it's just to inform them that we intend to explore this other issue.
And get their direction on whether they want you to go that route or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to put together some extra slides and then tweak the existing presentation
Mhm.
as we discussed, and then I'll send that around and get more feedback as well.
Yeah,
if that's
I would
something
say
you
that's
can
the
approach.
one thing that was missing at the end, is specifically what are we asking for? It's not just
Yeah.
that first slide, but really quick,
Right, kind of bigger picture.
bullet
Yeah.
at the end. That's the one place to put text. And we'll change the rest to picture.
Sounds good.
All right.
Is this going to be just for commercial buildings or for all buildings? And is this for remodels?
Initially, we were
person who
talking
doesn't
new
know this,
construction,
why-
commercial.
We already adopted some really aggressive codes on the residential side,
Mhm.
and this is trying to backfill on the commercial side.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're starting
Okay.
gently and then getting more aggressive going forward, but
Yep.
gently was just, I was convinced to go more gently and get something adopted by this voluntary system, and then we're gonna start working on something a little bit more, maybe mandatory or something, so.
Robust.
Okay.
That's
And-
what we were talking about just a little while ago.
Yeah, so kind of easing the town into more, rigorous commercial options, particularly given the work on the town center that's already
Right.
starting. So getting that in as soon as possible, and then hopefully we can have more of a sort of mandatory, rigorous
And I guess,
change. to
So this
codes.
is just for commercial?
Yeah, exactly. For now.
Am I
So-
the only person that didn't know
Res
this?
was
Did you know
Res
this?
was already done.
yeah,
Yeah,
residential.
because
Okay.
residential's already addressed through our building codes, because that's, really good, so. no
That's
worries.
a really basic thing I realized I didn't know the answer to.
And then just for clarification, I know Lisa on the phone and then Essie, you guys are talking about, from an ordinance standpoint, the idea of building codes being
Mhm.
updated. But, when I first got called on, the initial conversation was around the benchmarking ordinance that they did for commercial buildings in Boulder.
Okay.
And so I guess a point to explore, if I can find out what I find out from Boulder on costs,
Mhm.
the benchmarking program from a cost perspective might be less expensive to operate and give you longer term savings because you're documenting energy use in the buildings and helping manage them versus code. And so we might want to look at pros and cons on that at some point. I just don't know. Leading up to this May 8th meeting, I guess I want to put it out there to not limit yourselves just to building code, even though I know building construction is the biggest thing on our minds.
Yeah.
But when the buildings are built, if the operators running the buildings leave all the doors open and run the air conditioning at full bore, you're not going to see the energy savings that the code enforced. So
Absolutely.
benchmarking.
That,
Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
I think, no, I was just gonna say, I think we brought up benchmarking starting a number of years ago and giving examples. I heard it actually in the UK first, and then in Arizona and other places. So we've been trying to inch that way for a long time, and
Mhm.
yeah, I've always been a fan of that. But
Well,
Yeah,
and
happy-
the question might be, you might not be able to afford to do both. And so the
Mm-hmm.
question is, as you look at costs and political feasibility before you take it to the trustees, I'm happy to help prioritize and identify what the costs versus benefits are long-term.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be
So,
fantastic. Thanks.
mhm. Yep.
I have to leave. So.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
And the plan here, to clarify, is that SEU will deliver the presentation to the board? Is that your intention?
If that sounds good to everyone else,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Cool.
thanks.
I didn't even know it was the commercial.
There you go.
Yeah, please. We'll talk about dogs.
Is there anything else? I think that was the last agenda item, but yeah, I know some people want to go early, so.
Where are those going?
Pardon? It'd be the main intersections, just like, town event signs or the HOA event signs.
Is there anything else?
I didn't have anything else.
Okay.
I got to all my
So nice.
sticky notes.
Thanks for accommodating my travel schedule. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for calling in.
All right, my pleasure. Bye.
Have a good night.
So the benchmarking is, they have to monitor stuff, and it's like how much, and like what Excel does to us, you know,
After the building's built, how did
Mhm.
use that?
and then they send you things saying you're using more energy than anyone else on your entire block.
Well, it's different for commercial. They actually, the way Boulder's got it set up is they send the data annually, and it's just, here's all our utility data, and it's just a way to know if buildings are maintaining a certain level or not.
So what would the town do if you're benchmarking? How would the town, if you said, oh, we want to do benchmarking, how would the town, would they fine a business that, or?
They have the way Boulder is doing it is they buildings that must comply, and if you don't provide the data, they fine you.
You can
And
also.
the fines are, set up to incentivize you to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also kind of, carrot and stick approaches that you can take. So for example, if there are buildings that are doing really well compared to, for the type of building it is, you can also highlight those and give those buildings public recognition. And so there's kind of incentive to work to be one of the best. And so then you kind of end up having kind of like a game type approach where people are competing to try and be the best, which is great. So
Yeah, and that's more of like a voluntary. You don't even necessarily need to make it mandatory in that case. You can
Yeah.
explore that.
Mm-hmm. But if you do have the mandatory benchmarking, then you've got all the data, so it makes it really easy to go, okay, this year we're going to recognize, these buildings for being, really excellent. So,
Given how few buildings you guys have compared to most cities, it would be as expensive to run as in other towns compared to
Yeah.
code enforcement and construction.
mhm.
Right.
Great. Well, thanks everyone.
Yeah. I see all such as some graphics.
Excellent, sounds good. Yeah, I started looking around for some images and just couldn't find ones that were commercially,
I have a lot of.
acceptable in terms of.
Oh, yeah, it's my daughter.
wow.
Wait, let me-
So you have a baby?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, mostly it was just last night I was trying to get that. I was like, oh, I'll just give up and do pictures later, so.
She stayed home with them?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, right now she works.
Cool, that'd be awesome.
Oh, okay.
Stick a band
Oh,
over the
oh,
wall.
really? Okay.
Perfect, sounds good.
Yeah,
Thanks so
my-
much.
When I have it, very cute. When my-
Yeah, no rush.
He's like, yeah, this is all I have to do. It's no friends, no anything.
Yeah,
Now they're
exactly.
older, I'm like, do whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But if your wife works and she has time out in the
Not gonna
house.
take sign?
Do you want me to take sign?
Yeah.
You know what I told her? It's so funny.
That would be cool. Just drive around. That's 76.
Is there a
Did you all start presenting it because you
Yeah, right.
just like
That would be nice.
overloaded? I swear, I always tell moms, like, don't ever regret.
You guys posted on your,
Yeah.
like the 0027,
Yeah. So anyway. See, I have no problem asking when I don't, how didn't know that this was,
I didn't know where the.
it was only for commercial.
It's on the town property.
I went to college for enough years to just realize that when you don't know something, just ask. There's no such thing as a stupid question, right?
It's not somebody's yard, as long as it's not somebody's yard.
As long as that old man with pants pulled up to here.
Get out of my
That would be a young woman in a.
Would be
Oh, if I'm not here, you know I'm at work. I can't even, because I only know my schedule like 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
Over at
Indiana,